Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey. Today I want to talk about a character whose creation seemingly came out of nowhere, Dave Stevens' Rocketeer. And here I have the statue I recently purchased with a little help from the Reverend, thanks. Wonderful thing here, and not so expensive as you think, still available I guess. I will put a little light here, down there. And so I have a nut lamp of sorts here in my room. But I want to talk about the comic here, which is just 100% comic genius fun. This is the 40th anniversary edition, meaning the book was originally created in 82. Some pages are dated 81, however. And this is the second edition, but in the first edition there were 2 pages not facsimilized from the original, so this is a slightly improved version. Dave Stevens worked together with Russ Manning on Tarzan. Here's a self-portrait, and but then he left to work as the comic world, to work as a storyboard artist for Hanna-Barbera, and later on for Steven Spielberg and for Michael Jackson Thriller, this famous video. He did seemingly the storyboard, which I didn't know. So sometimes afterwards can be very short, but very informative, and he uses his cinematic experience, his experience with the cinematic view, cinematic storytelling, representing movement in a storyboard-like fashion throughout this book to almost perfection, or perfection. Not perfect is this magnification here. It's just too much, so that it got blurry. But otherwise this book here is very nicely made, including the color scheme here and so on. So I mean, I think you know the core of the story is some Nazis have stolen a rocket backpack and left it in the plane of Cliff here, our Rocketeer. And yeah, he becomes the Rocketeer then with this jet pack on his back. And a good part of the fun of the story here is how he wings being a superhero, and yeah, he's always head over heels into these adventures here. But look at the page here, the placing of black and white. This here, the silhouette. This is really not as easy here as with smaller books. But you can see the blue lines there in his face, I guess, and all the corrections and markers and glued in text pieces. But I really think how amazing it is how he uses the blacks there on this page, like on many pages. You can look on almost each and every page and you see this the sense of movement with the car here or there, or Cliff guy running to get his rocket pack there. And he's a true blue hero. This is another thing which makes this just a simple yet very strong story that we don't have any kind of problems to relate to this good guy here. We root for him. And that's more or less this classic pose they used for, again, the statue here. And what I really like about this is that he's a realistic superhero, that his powers don't come from any kind of cosmic crystal or so. I know I'm a bit stubborn in that regard, but yeah, there I said it. And as I said it as well, he wings, no pun intended, a lot, and risks his life to save a life there, and this makes him, of course, already a good guy. But there's no arguing that the real star in this comic here is Cliff's girlfriend, Betty, and here we have her first entrance into the story, and what an entrance it is. First we see her legs, then we see her behind, and then her right arm, and then her from the front in her full glory shine there. So yeah, Dave Stevens really used this page to introduce us to her, and makes it very clear how fun it is to draw this beautiful woman there. She's very self-aware of her beauty and what it makes with men's heads, but she's really in love with Clifford, and she's the more mature character, while Clifford, despite of his heroic good nature, is a bit naive, and quite naive, and yeah, first acts and then thinks. But this makes for these nicely done stories. Look at this action here stuff. And yeah, of course you have an artist edition and all the stuff that was pasted on the paper, and the signatures and remarks and stuff that you can read through glued on papers. All the stuff here is in this beautiful edition here. And hey, yeah, hey is the right expression, because I thought this looks like Jaime. Oh, yeah, this looks like Jaime, this face here. And whether one or the other had to be inspired by the other, but then afterwards I read, okay, there was a little art assist by Jaime Hernandez. So maybe the whole page here, which has slightly different color tone than the others, maybe the whole page was done by Jaime Hernandez, but obviously he had his hand here in this comic. Yeah, I don't know what it is with this bondage theme with so many comics, but it's nicely drawn, of course. I love this face here of that man. One of the villains, a Nazi, of course. So, yeah, here I wanted to show you something that you probably won't see in the finished comic. Here he drew the body of the Rocketeer outside the panel just to get a full sense of the proportions of that character. Okay, and yeah, she works as a pin-up model for this guy Marco of Hollywood, and this is of course reason for lots of being jealous. Clifford is jealous about this here, and he's afraid of losing Betty without reason, we know as a reader, but he doesn't know. And this is this propels the story forward into the sky, as we can see here with these fantastic action scenes in the sky there. The story here is adventure story with a little of espionage and lots of romance, because our guy here, he travels through the whole world to Europe just to get his lady get his lady back from this bad photograph dude there. I really like these panel borders here, who mimic or should represent the window of this particular plane there. And there's a lot of stuff that you can see in the details or in the shadows. Look at the shadow of this guy here, who was always a bit portrayed like a Neanderthal or a gorilla, because look at the shadow here. This is really the shadow of a gorilla. And then we come to the second part of the story. By the way, here, this plane, the shadows on this plane here are just as tenderly rendered like the shadows on Betty's behind. So this cracks me really up. But it's a fantastically drawn plane there. Dave Stevens had a lot of art assists here by Arthur Adams, Jeff Darrow, Gary Gianni, Michael Kaluta, Stan Manukian, Sandy Plunkett, and Vince Rouche. However, you can play the Spot the Artist, the helping hand game here. I'm not so sure about neither of them, so I leave it up to you. But here we have the part of the story in which our cliff guy here tries to save his beloved Betty out of the hands of this douchebag of a photographer. And here you may see what I'm meant with tenderly rendered shadows on some body parts there. And we have a side character here. You will guess who I'm talking about. I mean, the whole story is pulp, of course, and one of the greatest pulp heroes ever is the Shadow. And he appears like a shadow should do, out of nowhere, to help our guy here. And in case you're a bit slow on the uptake, like I was when I read the story the first time, if I remember correctly, here we are helped. So long as he's in New York, I'll be sticking to him like a shadow. And to make it really clear, his most prominent feature, his long nose, exceeds just a slightly bit out of this panel, and a bit more Betty there, and a pretty damaged hero right there. Look at the right page here. It's very well. It's great storytelling and a bit of slapstick, as we will see later on. Fantastic. Right there, out of the EC school of horror, I would say. So Dave Stevens would have been a great artist for EC. On this double page here, I got the impression some of the aforementioned art assists had their fingers here in making these panels. But yeah, I don't know. It's amazing how the sense of perspective here and detail and all that good stuff. Wonderful. And it's really great to see all. This is always almost in the meantime a smear of lead, all these helping lines and corrections underneath to craft this crystal clear imagery here. The last part of the story here is not the strongest one. It features a carnival troupe, a freak show. Our rocketeer Cliff guy seemingly once worked with, and this guy here wants revenge on something that happened in the past, which we are told in flashbacks. And here you can see again how Dave Stevens drew above and outside the panels just to get his drawing right there. Look at this one here. And just a last example, but a very strong example of a sense of cartoony fun. Yeah, right there. This is Cliff's friend Steve, Peavy. And yeah, the covers here for these Pacific comics, or Pacific Presents, in which the Rocketeer appeared. I really wonder if this cover here was published uncensored back in the day. Yeah. So, highly recommended. This is the perfect package or presentation for this pulpy comic that came out in the 80s and portrayed a long gone era, the 30s, and has now a second layer of nostalgic flair since it's 40 years ago when it was firstly published. So, me and the Rocketeer say goodbye for now. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.